Barich playing at a Demir Inverter Mirror, and then Pulliam on your right playing Team of Reclamation against Dylan Hand playing Jund Sacrifice.
Straight ringer.
That's right.
Lowest profile of any of the 6 players playing in this feature match area right now, but a stone cold ringer.
So we will be getting the green light here in just a moment, and we're going to watch Dilks on Amulet Titan that's gotten some upgrades, like Dryad of the Elysian Grove, among others, against Barich playing Golgari Yawgmoth, the deck that she used to win her 3rd SCG Tour Open just a couple weeks ago in Knoxville. Once Upon a Time is how we're going to start our day. I'm so used to Barich playing Infect that I'm waiting for her to reveal a Glistener Elf or a Blighted Agent, but that's not the case here. The reveal instead is going to be Yawgmoth itself. And now there's a Verdant Catacombs. So, time to go a searchin'. That'll be a Overgrown Tomb untapped, down to 17.
Dilks patiently waiting.
Always. And now Birds of Paradise, so a little bit of mana acceleration. We will head over to Dilks, who has a Once Upon a Time of his own, so he'll take a look at the top handful of cards. Amulets, plural, among them. Snow-covered forest. And now one more to take a look at. And I believe that was a Sakura Tribe Scout is the last card.
And Barich's deck, basically just straight combo here. Almost nothing in terms of interaction. So against a lot of Golgari-style decks, you would probably be hesitant to value a Tribe Scout very highly because you assume just a lot of removal over there that you're turning on, but not the case here.
Nope, we're looking at all creatures all the time. And the combo, of course, Yawgmoth, Thran Physician alongside Drolf's Messenger. Pretty cool stuff there. I've lost to that one online a time or two. And this will be a Snow-Covered Forest. That's a choice here for Dilks. The rest of those cards go to the bottom of the deck at random. And we'll see what the follow-up is here in just a moment. Looks like he's just going to start with the Snow-Covered Forest and simply pass the turn back. So not the fastest starts here for Dilks. The follow-up now here for Barich will be a Drolf's Messenger, so there will be a trigger. Dilks is going to lose 2. There you do see the 3-mana 3/2 zombie enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 2 life. Then you've got the Undying. When this creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, it returns to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Very, very pushed triple black creature.
Yeah, this was an all-star in Standard during its time. I almost top-8'd an Invitational with that card alongside Walking Corpse. Drolf's Messenger was responsible for most of the wins. With
Oh,
that
you
tag.
sure?
Yeah.
Wasn't the Corpse? There's a Teleria West. We're going to head back over to Barich now. There's an attack for 3. Dilks is going to fall down to 15.
Players, welcome to round 2. You have 50 minutes. Please begin.
Curious to see what the follow-up is going to be here. It'll be a forest.
That is land number 4.
And there's Yawgmoth. So missing just one little piece to the puzzle here, which is just like another Undying creature like a Young Wolf or something like that. But of Court of Calling is in hand for Barich right now. There is Castle Garenbrig. Dilks will play Dryad. There's a Simic Growth Chamber. There will be a trigger.
And I think that Barich is just in the clear here because there's not even a threat of Pact of Negation in this spot.
Yep, I think should be good to go unless I'm missing something here. Here's an attack with both creatures. Yawgmoth being a 2/4, heading into the Dryad that's also a 2/4, and then Dross Messenger is a 3/2. All right, there's Cord. Okay, there's Young Wolf. And this little Undying Knucklehead means that, yeah, we are able to go back and forth with the Undying trigger. Sacrifice the Dross Messenger. It comes back with a +1/+1 counter. You sacrifice the Young Wolf, put a -1/-1 counter on the Dross Messenger. Young Wolf comes back and forth and back and forth. You've got enough life to work with to be able to do it, and that is going to do it.
Barich gets to convert 1 life there into 2 from Dilks and was already ahead, so there you go.
There you go, Aaron. Barich, she's going to win game number 1 here over Matthew Dilks. Golgari Yawgmoth up a game very quickly over Amulet Titan. Remember, Barich was able to win SCG Knoxville just a couple of weeks ago, our second open of the year, with this exact deck. Some minor changes, but past that, you're seeing Golgari Yawgmoth in action.
And it might not be a bad time for this deck. I mean, Barich has obviously already had her success with it, but an uptick in Primeval Titan strategies might be very good for this deck's position in the metagame. They don't really respond to the battlefield all that well, and they do appear to be slower as well, and so you should be able to have a pretty good matchup there.
Let's take a look at the sideboards here. We'll start with Matthew Dilks. Has 4 copies of Ether Gust, 2 Engineered Explosives, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Dismember, 2 Beast Within, a Radiant Fountain, an additional copy of Field of the Dead, and a Reclamation Sage.
Definitely want the 2 copies of Dismember here. Aether Gust seems strong as well. Could be talked into the explosives too. Enough 1-mana cards.
We move to the other side of things here for Barich. 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Veil of Summer. A lot of one-ofs in Plague Engineer, Assassin's Trophy, Dampening Sphere, Thrashing Brontodon, Abrupt Decay, Phyrexian Revoker, Obstinate Baloth, Kitchen Finks, Ashiok Dream Render, going to prevent the searching, along with a Reclamation Sage and a copy of Lost Legacy, so a lot of options.
Yeah, I like the Ashiok, the Lost Legacy, the Reclamation Sage, the Damping Sphere, and the Assassin's Trophy. So very strong sideboard. If you have the wiggle room, I could be talking to the 2 copies of Thoughtseize as well. You know, a lot of Dilks' hands is going to have just 1 payoff card. But I don't know how much wiggle room Barich really has here, because we're already looking at quite a few cards to be bringing in.
Those are your options there for both players. They're shuffling up very quickly as both our other matches appear to still be in game number 1, a Dimir Inverter Mirror, along with Jund Sacrifice against Temur Reclamation. We will take a look at our Season 1 schedule here on the SCG Tour, as we had an open in Columbus to kick off the year that was won by Zach Allen, Harlan Fear, and Danny Jessup, with the team of Edgar Magalhaes, Matthew Dilks, and Will Pulliam getting second place. And then SCG Knoxville, as we mentioned, January 11th and the 12th was won by Aaron Barich. We're working on crowning a champion here the next weekend. We're going to the casino.
Oh, yeah. Team Constructed Open in Philadelphia at the casino. So make sure to check that out next weekend. Indianapolis the weekend after that, that's Pioneer. And then March 7th is the Regional Championships. Those will be modern, and you can head over to go.starcgames.com/regionals for more information. This coming Friday, we should have all the information for that event announced, so make sure to check back to the website if you plan on playing in the regional championships, which are held all over the United States. After that, Pioneer Open in Baltimore, a Modern Open in Syracuse. That'll take us to April, and in Atlanta, we have a Pioneer Open, and then at the end of April, a Team Constructed Open in Worcester, Massachusetts. May, pretty full calendar here with 3 opens: Modern in Cincinnati, Team Pioneer in Louisville, and then Individual Pioneer back in Philadelphia. And that will take us to SCGCon Summer, featuring the Season 1 Invitational that will be held June 11th through the 14th in Roanoke, Virginia at the Berglund Center.
Go to StarCityGames.com/schedule for more information, as we're getting ready to watch game number 2 here between Barich and Dilks. Both these teams 8-1, right near the top of the standings, where if you watch much of the SCG Tour, you would expect them to be. We will give them the green light in just a moment, and Dilks is going to start things off with a Forest and an Amulet of Vigor. This is a Young Wolf. Ow!
Competing busted 1-mana cards,
yes.
Squaring off. Dilks made the Dilks face at that one.
Yeah. Not impressed by the Wolf. think that might be handware battlements. Yes, indeed it is. Able to give Primeval Titan haste at a moment's notice. Young Wolf's going to come across here for one, take a little bite out of Dilks. Dilks going to fall down to 19. And we'll see what the follow-up is here for Barich. It's just going to be an Overgrown Tomb tapped and passing of the turn. And Dilks will draw a card. And while he works on his third turn, we'll let you know that Baker Neenan, VTCLA on Magic Online, is up a game here over Edgar Magalhaes. Dimir Inverter Mirror currently going to the player on the left as Dilks is going to just play a Gemstone Mine and pass the turn back once again. So not a very explosive start here for Dilks, even though he does have an Amulet of Vigor on the battlefield. That is a Reclamation Sage to blow up that amulet.
It's a really good time here for that Reclamation Sage because Dilks' hand sort of suggests that he was trying to do everything all in one turn with some burst of mana, and now that's cut off.
Dilks does have a copy of Dismember in hand, so his hand is a lot more interactive than it appears.
Not the ideal targets for Dismember on Barich's battlefield.
I would agree. This is an Azusa, Lost But Seeking, as Dilks will move that Gemstone Mine down to 2 counters. Bajuka Bog is land number 1. And goodbye Graveyard. He's actually going to eat his own Amulet of Vigor and simply pass the turn back with no additional lands left to play, which means, naturally, that Dilks has all spells in hand. Though you imagine he'd prefer to have lands. Here come the beatdowns, perhaps.
No way for him to get it's a small play there from Dilks, but there's no way for him to recur out of his graveyard, and there's no reason to allow Barich to do something like Surgical Extraction, the Amulet of Vigor. So
here comes an attack for 2. Dilks will take that 2 and fall down to 16. The follow-up here is a Thoughtseize. The hand here for Dilks is Primeval Titans, plural, along with a Pact Negation, and
Dismember.
That Dismember.
Not surprising that his hand's a little heavy.
There goes the Dismember. That's his form of interaction. The follow-up now is a Dross Messenger. So Messenger's going to come down and trigger. Dilks is going to fall down to 14. Dilks will draw a card. His hand is very slow out of the gates here.
And Dilks is very vulnerable here because if he draws a mana to play, Barich knows that was the draw step. If it doesn't make blue mana, he can't pay for Pact Negation, and there's no Dismember. So if Dilks draws a land here, he may have to just keep it in his hand to keep the illusion up that he drew some interaction, because the coast is completely clear here for Barich to go off next turn if she has the tools to do so.
Well, he's going to play the Gruul Turf, replay the Gemstone Mine, and pass the turn back. Barich's are going to very quickly draw, play Yawgmoth, and going to end the game. So there you go. Aaron Barich is going to win this game and match over Matthew Dilks 2-0 very, very quickly. Your SCG Knoxville champion is doing it again here with Golgari Yawgmoth. Barich, Neenan, hand, they're up. As we're going to head over to Pioneer and get our eyes on the Dimir Inverter Mirror between Baker Neenan and Edgar Magalhaes.
And I'll say, we've been talking a lot about Amulet Titan and how some of these players are top players on the SCG Tour. Gravitate towards that deck, how many of them, including Matthew Dilks, think the upgrades the deck got recently are substantial. That matchup looked really bad.
Didn't look good.
Really bad.
Didn't look good.
That deck is not really well equipped to interact with creatures. There is a little bit, the deck is capable of doing a little bit of blocking, but Golgari Yawgmoth can operate entirely outside of combat. The deck is fast, and Dilks looked pretty helpless in that pair of games.
Yeah, his hands were not particularly explosive in either game, and that's what it takes to be able to beat a deck like that, is just to go over the top of them very quickly, which, of course, his deck is capable of doing, but did not do in those games.
Yeah, the ceiling on his draws the absolute ceiling on Amulet draws, I think, look like turn 2. So you can definitely get draws that are faster than Barich's ceiling, but we're not talking about hands that emerge all that often. And if we're looking at 50th percentile versus 50th percentile draws, I think Barich is going to get the better end of it way more often than not.
For those of you watching at home, first, thanks for coming and hanging out early on this morning. But second, if you want to take a look at the deck list that these players are playing, you'll be able to do that on Cardboard Live, the extension that brings and helps bring awesome coverage to you. You'll take a look at these Dimir Inverter deck list here from Baker Neenan and Edgar Magalhaes. Magalhaes, a big fan of this deck. I talked to him about that yesterday in between rounds. And for Baker Neenan, obviously he's a big fan too. And the deck lists are very, very similar here in 4 Inverters, 4 Thassa's Oracle, 3 Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Fatal pushes Thoughtseizes and some more interaction, and we'll see how the sideboard games do go. Edgar felt very confident in the sideboard games, said he doesn't even care if people take away his inverters with something like an unmoored ego, as he's happy to try to kill people with Pack Rat.
Yeah, the deck can just kind of pivot into a classic Dimir control shell control game when it comes to it. Combo is likely to be good game number 1, but some of your opponents are going to be overloaded on ways to break that up specifically, and you can just sort of reorient yourself as a Dimir control deck.
So we are going to be underway here. Choked Estuary, one of your favorites.
Ooh, it's really that bad out there.
Revealing a swamp, and now it's a Thoughtseize. So Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, plural, along with a couple of lands here, and a Mystical Dispute, as Edgar's going to record this information and figure out the best way to move forward. Those lands are an island, it's like a watery grave, and a Temple of Deceit. Been a hot minute since we've seen the Dimir Temple. Goodbye, Mystical Dispute. Hello, Temple. That card will stay on top there for Baker, and we'll head back over to Edgar, who has a swamp, and there is a Thought Eraser. So he's going to pick it apart even more. The card that was drawn was Dig Through Time. Now does Edgar want to take one of these 2 Jaces or take the Dig, and it looks like he's happy to take the Dig. Edgar will now Surveil, put a Dig into his graveyard, and pass the turn back over to Baker, who left this card on top. He'll play a Thoughtseize right away. You see a Censor, a Dig, and a Fetid Pools.
Yeah, the Censor and Dig Through Time here, neither of these cards are that surprising to see in hand because they would really justify the way that the Thought Erasure went last turn, with hoping to line up your Censor against one of the Jaces, and then having a Dig Through Time in hand, which would justify surveilling over the Dig Through Time when you revealed.
And there goes Dig Through Time via the Thoughtseize. So Censor and Fetid Pools left there for Edgar, as he'll begin his 3rd turn. There's the Fetid Pools. We'll go back over to Baker Neenan. Baker will play that island. 2 Jaces and a mystery card in hand. We head back over to Edgar. Edgar's going to fire off a Thoughtseize. What was the new card that was drawn? Fabled Passage, so land number 4. Goodbye, Jace. Let's go back over to Baker. Now Baker knows about the Censor that's in Edgar's hand, so he's naturally not going to deploy the Jace right now. Will Edgar cycle the Censor? Is an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, he can cycle now and try to keep it going. The problem here is if Baker draws land number 5, then he can play through the Censor. But if you cycle the Censor, Neenan has a pretty good justification to cast the Jace next turn, and if you don't have a follow-up response, it looks pretty bad.
Well, he's going to cycle and draw a new card, will Edgar. Now he'll untap and he'll draw again. There's land number 4 for Watery Grave untapped, and now here is a Jace for Edgar. So Edgar is first to the Jace race. Edgar is going to mill 2 of his own cards and draw a card. Pass the turn back over to Baker Neenan, who now has the opportunity to play his own Jace if he'd like to. Jace, Builder of Mysteries, a 4-mana Planeswalker. Triple blue, somewhat difficult to cast, but it is powerful when it is on the battlefield, and it is a win condition for this deck in combination with Inverter of Truths. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. The plus, as you saw Edgar do on his turn, his target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. You get to draw a card. And the -8, which I'm curious to see if that does come up. Draw 7 cards, then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. That one, of course, from War of the Spark.
Trying to take a look over here at how well equipped Neenan is to get a Planeswalker off of the battlefield if combat isn't really on the table. He's got a copy of Hero's Downfall. And that is about it.
Okay.
Yeah, just going to have to play through it. Not easy to do.
Edgar also has a main deck copy of Hero's Downfall. And his sideboard doesn't have very many ways to get off the battlefield either. So for both players, once a Planeswalker is kind of on the battlefield, it looks like it's just going to hang out there. So
Yep.
Edgar's going to mill Baker 2 and then draw a card with his Jace. And now it looks like we might be going towards Dig Through Time. So Edgar's going to roll up his sleeves. Looks like he'll be delving 6 cards. Just figuring out which 6 he wants to delve. And then he'll take a look at the top 7 and take 2 with him. Magalhaes trying to figure out exactly how to work through this game when both players do have a Jace. Is he on the hunt for Inverter? Is he on the hunt for Pack Rat?
I'm kind of, if I'm in Edgar's spot, I'm kind of interested in just finding more defense. Because the pacing of this game is so favorable for him.
We'll go to Baker's side. You can see there, for our standard match there at the bottom, Will Pulliam is up a game with Team of Reclamation, a deck he feels is quite good this weekend against Dylan Hand playing Jund Sacrifice. Dylan top-8ing 2 classics thus far this year, 1 in Columbus and 1 in Knoxville. That is a basic island.
Interesting to see here Baker go ahead and mill Edgar.
And we saw Edgar do the same thing.
Yeah.
Mill Baker. So here's Dig Through Time.
It's an interesting balancing act there of how much do you want to have kind of your own resources in the graveyard to be able to do delving and other graveyard-oriented things and also get yourself closer to 0 versus the milling of the other player does put some pressure on them to do something at some point.
Here comes Dig. Thassa's Oracle among those 7 cards. A Censor there, a Swamp, an Island, and a copy of Opt. All right. There is a Supreme Will here from Edgar. And that's going to get hit with a Censor. Edgar is looking to take a look at the top couple of cards of his deck and select one. So Baker's going to take the opportunity to censor that as we head back over to Magalhaes. Both Jaces on 6.
With Edgar on the front foot here,
Yep.
having gotten to deploy his Jace first.
Looks like we're going to start with an Opt. Top card will be the bottom one there for Magalhaes. She'll draw a card. There's a plus. He's going to mill himself this time and then draw a card. So you mentioned the balancing act. We're seeing it in action. All right, going to cycle a Fetid Pools after Edgar ended his turn by playing a Water Grave. Tapped. So now Baker's going to untap those 6 lands. Again, he's got the Jace as well. Edgar's is at 7. I have to imagine that Baker's will be at 7 in just a moment here as well.
Interesting to see Edgar play the Watery Grave there tapped. It feels like so unlikely that life total comes down to the determining factor here. And even if you can't use all 5 mana were you to play it on tap, it is information that Baker can use about the kind of the shape and nature of your hand.
I'm with you with that. That's a little bit surprising. I guess you can make the argument of going from 14 to 12 means 2 hits from inverter.
Yeah, no,
it
is a line that matters, no question. It's not free. It's just, Baker has to be a lot more confident in just main phasing that hero's downfall than if you play the Watery Grave on tap. You're sort of suggesting I have multiple pieces of interaction, and now Edgar's in trouble. I mean, I don't know how much the Watery Grave there informs whether or not Baker would have gone for it, but it has. If it moves the needle at all, it's in the direction of casting the hero's downfall.
Well, there's the hero's downfall for Edgar. Both players are playing 1 copy, and they both have found them. Drown in the lock, looking to fight back, and it's going to resolve. All right.
And now Edgar, there is a path to recur, which is inverter gets it back in. But in terms of playing the game straight up, it's going to be really hard for Magalhaes to be able to get this Jace off the battlefield now. Really well played game here from Baker. Ringer! Stone cold ringer!
Baker's going to start things off with an opt. He'll take a look at the top card. It's going to become the bottom card. So new card coming here for Baker Neenan. Did cycle a sensor on Edgar's end step, and with that cycle, he drew a copy of Thoughtseize. Curious to see if he wants to fire that off right now or not. He'll start by plussing the Jace. He's going to mill himself. Excuse me. He's going to mill Edgar, and now he'll draw that card. Now, perhaps here comes that Thoughtseize. Absolutely. Edgar's hand pretty weak. Fatal Push, Fabled Passage, and a Thassa's
Nothing,
Oracle.
just air.
Yeah, extremely, extremely weak hand here for Magalhaes. And if Baker Neenan's able to win this game, he'll be able to win the match for his team. And that team of Barich, Neenan in hand would stay in first place here after 10 rounds of competition.
My favorite part of the team tournaments is when there's a team discussion over a Thoughtseize where all the players are arguing all the cards are irrelevant, but they have a slight preference for one or the other.
Sure.
And you're just sitting there just like, can you please end this game?
Sure. just pick a card.
Just break it.
Yeah. Baker will pass the turn back. We're going back Edgar's way. He lost his Fatal Push. He still does have that Thassa's Oracle in hand. Or at least I thought we were going to head back Edgar's way. All right, we're going to go inverter.
We're still looking for a few more people to launch our 10:30 standard challenge. If you'd like to play 4 rounds of standard.
So there goes the deck. Take a look and see what's in the graveyard that's going to become the deck. Dig through time, sensor, draw on the lock, hero's downfall. Thoughtseize opt. Actually, 2 Thoughtseizes, 2 sensors.
So 9 cards in hand. So deck becomes 9 cards. You have a draw step down to 8. You can Jace for 7, and then your hand contains cantrips. So he can get empty out next turn and do it with, Thoughtseize and counterspell backup.
Yep. And you see Jace with the win condition as the static. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. Now, do remember, you got to be careful there because if you use the -8, the Jace is no longer on the battlefield.
Right. You got to. Yep.
You don't have to rush it. You can plus it up to 9 and then go about business that way.
Yeah, Edgar's going to show you if he should happen to draw a hero's downfall or whatever, he's going to show it. Next turn, I don't think he's going to try a trap. Although maybe that's your only shot to win. But the overall point is true. There's not really a rush to do anything here. And also, Neenan has the option of just beating down and passing. He doesn't have to make any sort of move here.
Edgar's going to sacrifice the Fabled Passage. We knew about that one. He'll get a basic island. Now we're going to see a Thassa's Oracle. So there will be a trigger here. Edgar gets to take a look at the top 2 cards. They're both going to go to the bottom very, very, very quickly. And he will simply pass the turn back. So Neenan's going to untap with that 9-card library. It's down to 8 after drawing a card. He's going to cash in Jason. He's got Thassa's Oracle in hand, so.
Yeah, he's going to get to do this with Thoughtseize back up, as we know that is part of the deck right now.
4.
Drown in the lock.
5.
A lot to play with.
6. 7. 1 card left in the deck. Clear the way with the Thoughtseize, perhaps. Yes, we will. Edgar's hand is just a land. Here comes Thassa's Oracle. That'll do it. Baker Neenan's going to win this game and match over Edgar Magalhaes, 2-0. The team of Barich, Neenan, and Hand move up to 9-1. They were in first place.